All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for attending today's webinar, Unlocking the Power of Your Geospatial Data with Google Maps and Waze. My name is Emily Reitz, and I am the Director of Technology here at the National States Geographic Information Council. If you're unfamiliar with NSGIC, we exist to advance effective national coordination of geospatial information by supporting state-level cooperation. We serve as a national forum for the development of capable and future-oriented geospatial leadership. And if you'd like to learn more information, if you'd like to learn how to get involved with us, please visit our website, www.nsgic.org. Just some brief housekeeping reminders today. All attendees have been muted on entrance, and I think there will be some time during this presentation for Q&A, so please pop your questions into the chat box. There will be a recorded version of this webinar available afterwards, so that will be in an email out to all registrants once that recording is ready. And with that, I will now turn it over to the presenters, and thank you so much, everybody, for joining.
Thanks so much, Emily. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Thank you for joining Unlocking the Power of Your Geospatial Data with Google Maps and Waze. Next slide. So I want to say it's been a long time coming, but we're doing a presentation jointly with Waze, which is really exciting. Waze has been a part of Google Maps for a long time, so we want to have you understand a little bit more about how we work together and how we can collaborate with you. I'm Holly Howard. I have met with many of you before, and maybe you recognize me from previous presentations. I'm joined today by Andrew Stover from Waze, really exciting, and Megan Bergman, who also has been with us on these presentations before for Google Maps Content Partners. Next slide. Okay, so we're going to talk today about Google's Geospatial Snapshot. So we do have a lot of Google products for maps, and we're going to talk specifically about how to contribute your data to us to enhance those products, specifically the Google Maps Content Partners Program and Waze for Cities. We do have these other sister programs, and we have a teeny bit about those, but we can get you in touch with people if you want to have more information about Transit Earth and Insights Explorer. Next slide. Okay, like I said, we have lots of products, and we can answer questions about these. We do work with all of these people, and to know that the data that you're sending in to us is also enhancing these programs is important to know. Next slide. We are going to highlight the next slide. The Google Maps Content Partner and Waze specifically. Okay, so Google Maps and Waze are widely used navigation services, right? So hopefully you all use these products day to day, whether you're driving or biking. 1 billion monthly Maps users, 750 million edits that are made to Maps and Waze monthly. So all of this is to say is that these are all built on contributions from, we could not do this without the partnerships and collaborations that we have with all of you around the globe. There's many different data sets that we take in: Street View, EV charging stations, 3 billion kilometers of public transit data. And so much of this comes from our partners. So we'll talk a little bit more about how that happens. Next slide. Okay, so maybe many of you have gotten an email from me on filling out a survey after you use Google Maps Content Partners, and we do take this data to heart, and we really try to understand more about how to improve the data sharing process through Google Maps Content Partners, and we're including Waze in that in the future. But we've gotten some feedback about that and understanding why people contribute to Google Maps, to create more informed communities, reach local and global audience. I think this is a really interesting one because when we're talking about like Google Maps and Waze, they're both in hundreds of countries, and the data that comes in, sets to the global stage, and people are looking at this map of the globe, but really so much of it is what happens in that local experience. And so talking about the operational efficiency in that local experience and then actionable insights more particular to Waze, that you can get these great actionable insights with Waze, but also on Google Maps on how you can get insights to your data. Next slide. Okay, so how do we do this? So with the when we talk about the map, and so often we're prioritizing on maps and Waze getting from A to B, right? And we're trying to enhance a lot of the different features that you can do, but so much of it comes down to search and navigation. And that foundational data, that location intelligence of putting that point or that road on the map, is really key to the entire experience. Next slide. So when we talk about foundation data and the data that we prioritize, so this is important, and I'm sure Megan will talk about this too, but when we take in data, we really do try to prioritize the data that gets us from A to B in that search and navigation. So geocoded, so address data, roads, administrative boundaries, and points of interest. We do take in many other feature types, but just so that this is kind of like the bread and butter of the accuracy. But the way that we get this data in, certainly satellite and aerial imagery, we're doing digitizing, machine learning, AI, on this type of data. But certainly key to this is the authoritative data sets that are sent in, and then certainly in Waze and local guides, the scaled user contributions that we get. Next slide. Okay, and then so on top of this, so we have that foundation data, but with the addition of Waze, we're also poised and ready to get these real-time data alerts and closures. So when we're talking about getting the data in, quite often through Google Maps content partners, it comes in as a static layer. We're downloading it, uploading it, or we're getting through an API. We're getting it through more of a static way. Now with this addition, and Andrew will go into this more, it's so great to have this real-time reporting of these road closures and other issues on the map to give a better user experience. Next slide. Okay, so this is kind of, we're starting to get into the bread and butter here. And it's so nice that we've finally been able to kind of collaborate and get the maps working together. For all of you GIS experts out there, you can understand that, these two platforms, marrying them together has been a really interesting and experience. And so right now, this kind of chart is giving you an insight into how we take the data in and where it's visible. We can make this available to you so you don't have to memorize it now, but you can see, so, if you're sending in real-time road alerts and road closures, that comes in through Waze, it appears on Waze and Google Maps. Foundation data, that would come in through Google Maps content partners, but it will also show up on Waze. So we're really trying to make more of this data across platforms. So it's easier on those sending in the data, not having to send to both platforms, but also we want it to show up on both platforms. The supplemental layers, right now, we take those in through Google Maps content partners. Same with transit, it's coming in through our sister team of transit, which we hope you are also a transit partner, and we'll give you the link to be a transit partner as well. So as to say that we're trying to make these a little bit more seamless. Next slide. Okay, and I'm going to pass it to Megan to talk about Google Maps content partners and give you a deep dive there. Thanks, Megan.
Awesome. Thanks, Holly. And apologies, I'm recovering from a cold, so if I sound a little weird, that's why. So for Google Maps content partners, it's an awesome tool that is open to everyone. If you Google Google Maps content partners, it'll take you to this landing page that you see on your screen. And so really it's the easiest way for city, county governments, even users sometimes to share us their geospatial data files. And this really unlocks the ability for you guys to share that data with us. If you could jump to the next slide for me. So who we partner with, it's city, county, regional, municipality governments. We also work with housing developers. We work with some NGOs and healthcare providers. Specifically, a couple years ago during the COVID times, we were working with a lot of different healthcare providers there to make sure we had the correct COVID testing and vaccine information on the map. But we also work with nonprofits and really anyone that's willing to work with us and give us high quality data. We're willing to take a look and see what we can use out of that data set. Next slide for me. As Holly touched on, there's a couple different foundational types of data that are really, really important for us. And those are really what we call base map features that get us from point A to point B. So those would be things like roads. This includes things like private restrictions on roads, surface type on roads, speed limits, road attributes in general there. For geocoded address points, this would be what we think of historically as just like address points, and sharing that data with us so that when you're searching in Google search, it can route you to the explicit address you're trying to go to. The administrative areas and postal codes, so these are more of like the political type boundaries that may not be as easy to see within aerial imagery, the natural borders of things. And so getting polygon data for this is really helpful for us to make sure that we have that all correct. And then POIs, so this is points of interest or businesses, hospitals, schools, police stations, really anything that people are searching for and want to go to. That's what we're looking for there. In terms of other types of data that we do also support, so new housing developments, this includes the combinations of data types such as parcel data, so boundaries for individual properties, address points, and new roads that typically come as like a package to us when there's new housing developments being built. Building footprints are really helpful to help us understand where buildings exist and where the roads go to meet them. And then parks and protected areas. So we do process parks as much as possible, but unfortunately, they are lower priority for us because things like roads and addresses and political boundaries and POIs are so critical for routing from point A to point B. But we do still love to get those natural features as well. When it comes to mobility and transportation, transit, you can go visit the transit portal in order to share transit data. Things like subway station outlines is something that we can process through Google Maps content partners, but I would recommend most transit data should go directly to that transit team. For EV charging stations, this is another type of data that we have historically taken through the Google Maps content partners. We're working on unlocking this to be more helpful in the future for GMCP. Travel restrictions, road closures, and restrictions you can also send through Google Maps content partners. But if you have anything that's more of like a road closure feed, that's when we'd want to direct you towards the Waze side of things. And Andrew will talk about that in just a minute. And then bicycle routes. This is something that we've started to take on more seriously is bicycle routes, and we love getting it's another like one of those road attributes, but being able to process those so that we can enhance the bicycle routing capabilities within our tool. And then some other raster style data that we do get through GMCP and we'll take through GMCP is overhead imagery, so aerial and satellite, and also some drone imagery as well. If you want to jump to the next slide. So in order to share your geospatial data with us, it's relatively simple. So you navigate to that landing page, like I talked about before. You can Google Maps content partners, or you can use the link that's provided here, and Holly will share out links as well at the end of this. Route there, you can select either sign in, and you can create a new account or access an existing account. Once you enter your organization information, then you can immediately start uploading data directly to the portal. And then within the portal, you can also communicate directly with my team. So we do get some feedback every once in a while that we sound like robots, but there is actually people on the other end of that line. So if you have questions about your data or the status of your data, there is someone that you can reach out to on the other side, and they can help get your questions resolved. On the other hand, my team might also reach out to you as well and ask you questions about your data if something is not entirely clear. Next slide, please. Excuse me, sorry. And then another thing I should definitely talk about, for each of the individual data types that I mentioned, there is specific content requirements. So if you're like, I have data, I don't know if it meets your content requirements, or I don't know if you have everything you need, this is a really great landing page to start with. And you can double check to see if the fields that you have match up to what our expectations are for that specific data type. If there is something missing, my team can reach out and ask questions or clarify column headers and things like that. There is also additional tooling functionality. So after you upload your data, you can let us know what those column headers mean in your data, just to help us map that out more discreetly for you. But this is a really, really critical page. And I do recommend you check this out before you upload, just to make sure that you have all the bits that you need. Next slide, please. Oh, it's just the same slide, just with a picture. So in here, for the political files, there is example files in there too. So if you don't know where to start and you're just getting started with your data set, you can download the files that are in there and use that as a template to start building out your data set. So however you see fit, we're happy to help work with you to get your data into the format so that we can import it into Google Maps. Next slide, please. All right, and then if you want to find out more, we have a bunch of help pages. So you can search your questions on there, and there's usually a help page that will pop up. If there isn't a help page that pops up for you, you can also contact us with a contact us form. Or you can also send a message within your individual upload after you submit and ask those questions directly to my team. I think that's my last slide, but I'm going to jump to the next one. Cool. Yeah. And then I'll hand it over to Andrew, unless there's any questions.
Great. Thanks so much, Megan. And maybe we'll save the questions for the end. And of course, feel free to add your questions in the chat as well. Great. So I'm going to talk to you today about the Waze for Cities program. For those of you who are not familiar with it, Waze is part of Google. It's been part of Google since 2013. And for about a decade now, we've run a program called Waze. It was called Connected Citizens Program at one time. Now it's called Waze for Cities. And it's a two-way data sharing program with public sector partners. We have thousands of partners all around the world, many different countries who participate with us. And the core of the program is really about creating a more informed community. It allows you to get real-time information to drivers. And as you may be familiar with Waze, Waze is a driving navigation app. So you get that real-time information by connecting a partner feed or by using other tools that we have that I'll go through in a little bit. We allow you to make edits directly to the Waze map to make sure that it reflects the conditions on your city streets and the regulations that are on your city or state roads. We allow you to send alerts and offer evacuation support with our crisis program during periods of crisis and make sure that road closures are up to date during those times. And then also you can share the Waze map, and many of our partners do this on your local website and share information about what's happening on your roads without having to maintain that information yourselves. Next slide. We also share data back with our partners. So you get access to a data feed that includes all of the reports that Waze users are making. So this is anything from vehicles stopped on the side of the road to crashes to wildlife that Waze users have reported. All of that's available to you in a feed. It's updated every two minutes. We also give you a visual snapshot of road conditions in your area through something called Traffic View that I'll preview for you in a little bit. And you can also sign up for unusual traffic alerts. So we'll send you an email to let you know when we see that GPS signals are suggesting to us that traffic has slowed down in a place where we wouldn't expect it to slow down. So if there's a road that's always congested at 5 o'clock, that's not unusual traffic. You don't need to know about that. You already know it exists. It's when that road is slowed down for some reason at 2 o'clock that you might want it to be alerted to what's going on. And finally, we give you access to 5 years worth of those reports and traffic trends that you can access as well. And finally, we find that our partners find this incredibly easy to use, right? So I'll show you a little bit about what the Partner Hub looks like. You have a one-stop shop to go to for all of this information. We can get your team up and running in just a matter of days. There's no cost for any of this, and we integrate with third-party solutions at transportation management centers, and you can access that data through Google's BigQuery or Data Studio dashboards or transmit it into whatever cloud software you might be using at your own organization. And we have an integration with ArcGIS, so you can get a Waze layer right onto ArcGIS and see all of this information on your maps. Next slide, please. So now I'll show you just a little bit more about what the program actually looks like in action. So when you've signed up for the program, and you will have access to this toolbox, you'll have defined a geography that's based on your jurisdiction. So it could be as small as a small town, it could be an entire state, and you'll have access to contribute data and to receive information about that entire region, and all available to you within this unified platform. Next slide, please. And so we'll start off with how you can share data with us to make it more accessible to users. So here we have something called our reporting tool. This allows you to add an alert. So any alert that you use or have seen on Waze when you've been using it as a consumer, you can add it right here as a partner. Point and click on any segment of road, it'll pull up a drop-down menu. You can pick that alert that you might want to post. So perhaps reporting, letting users know about a flooded road, or letting users know about police activity, or letting users know about where wildlife have been spotted. You can do all of that with point and click. Construction alerts are also a very popular thing to put in here. And when it comes to lane closures, which you can also add directly here, when it comes to construction, when it comes to crashes, all of those will flow through and appear on Google Maps as well. Those other alerts right now are not currently surfaced on Google Maps. So you can do this all as simple as a point and click. Next slide, please. When it comes to posting road closures, this is really very important information to keep people navigating smoothly throughout your jurisdiction. Also to help keep workers and people who might be involved in that road closure safe, making sure folks navigate away from it. We have something called the Waze Map Editor. And again, this is a slightly different tool, and it allows you to point and click and add closures to the map. So you can do this in real time. You can also plan these closures to appear ahead of time. So everything from a streets festival to a crane operation to a closure that suddenly popped up because you have a water main break. You can go into the Waze Map Editor, add those yourself right there, and those closures will flow through to Google Maps as well. So you get those across both platforms with just a few point and clicks. If you have major events going on in your city, you can also partner with our Waze map editing community, for instance, a marathon or something like that, and share the closure information with them, or share the closure information with a closure support team we have, and they'll enter all of that for you. And next, we'll talk a little bit about how you can send us a feed of information as an API and keep that updated in real time, and that includes closures as well. So we can go to that next slide. We have hundreds of partners around the world who send us feeds about both incidents and closures. We accept them in a variety of formats, a format that we've defined called KIFS version 2. For those of you who might be familiar with the Work Zone Data Exchange, we also accept that as a format. And we can ingest those directly, put those road closures and all those alerts on the map, and update them as frequently as you update that information to us. And a new feature that we have launched is the feedback feature. So we let you actually see how your feed is performing in real time. So here's an example of a feed that you can see here. It sent us 520 events. 13 of those haven't been posted to the map for some reason, and we allow you to click through and you can get details on what's not working. You could also get validation that the data that's flowed through has appeared on the map. This is great, especially if you're dealing with a large volume of alerts that you want to be sharing with us. If you have internal systems that are generating these reports and can send out a feed to us, a GeoJSON feed, an XML feed, we can ingest those and make sure that gets on the map. without having you do anything additional. A great example of this is Florida Department of Transportation has a feed with us, and when they're dealing with hurricanes and closing bridges to barrier islands, they'll send those through on the feed. That's a feed that they're sending out through their 511 systems. No need to interact directly with Waze or with Google Maps. It just gets that information out to all the users who are relying on that navigation software, and especially during a time when staff resources are going to be stretched in the middle of a crisis. Also great, for everyday use as well, those partner feeds. Next slide. And now you can also, this is a little bit of a reference to that data that you can get back from us. So if you've set up that partner account, you can set up polygons for yourselves. These can be polygons that can represent a corridor, a portion of a city, or an entire state. And then you have access to feed links in either JSON format or XML that give you all of the Waze user reports every 2 minutes that are coming in. And we let you see additional information about those reports. We give them a confidence score and a reliability score, so you can be sure that that data is reliable, that's coming through to you, and allow you to make your own decisions about how you might want to sort that or integrate that into other systems. We also allow you, if you wish, to save that data for your own analysis in the future. And in this regard, and we'll talk about it a little bit more with the historic data, Waze is probably the largest repository of non-reportable crashes anywhere in the world. We have dozens of partners who deploy first responders based on Waze reports of crashes. I mean, if you see a Waze report of a crash and you see that slowdown right behind it, something has happened. And academic studies have shown those reports of crashes are coming in 4 to 6 minutes earlier on Waze, on interstates and motorways, than they are through emergency service call numbers. So lots of great uses for this data. And again, also something can be integrated into traffic management centers or emergency operations centers. Next slide. We also have something called the Traffic View tool. This is a great tool we have. It's point and click right on the opening of the screen here. And what you see on the right is essentially the Waze map. So if you go to waze.com, that's what you'll see on the right-hand side. And on the left-hand side, we give you a whole set of additional analytics. So very quickly at the top, you see called the Wazeometer. This is just sort of a general view of in your polygon, how much traffic is free flowing, that's the green, and how much traffic is at a standstill, that's in the dark maroon. And so you can see when I took this screenshot, it was 6% of traffic, and 6% of Waze users, I should say, who were driving in Philadelphia were in standstill traffic. Something that's nice about this data source, it's also a limitation, but for those of you who know a lot about real-time transportation data, something that's nice about this is data that's coming exclusively from users of the Waze app. So there's not an algorithm behind it that's taking different sources and presenting it to you. This is just folks who've had Waze open in the last 2 minutes and are sharing their data with us. And in large metropolitan areas and large states, on interstates and motorways, that's it's often quite a significant N that you have there in terms of their number of traffic. We'll highlight that unusual traffic for you, what we would generate an email about. And we also allow you to set up watch lists. So you can set up start and end points. They can be as short as a block. They can be as long as, you see this green line here that represents a corridor from the northeast part of the city into the central part of the city. You can take this data, you can save it, you can receive it as a JSON feed and analyze it. It'll surface for you when we're detouring people off of a route because of congestion. And it's great, can be used for performance monitoring, can be used to highlight incidents that are occurring on a specific corridor of interest to you. And we give you the average speed along that watch list segment. Next slide.
Sorry, my icon is a little eraser, and that is not helpful.
Sorry.
What have I done? No. Oh, there we go. Weird. Sorry
Great.
about that.
All right. And so last but certainly not least, you have access to historic data, up to 5 years of all of those Waze user-generated reports, plus also our algorithmic detection of traffic jams. And that's stored for you. You can query it, you can visualize it. And here's an example from Bellevue, Washington, that was used to get a clearer view of where crashes were occurring. So they took three sources of data, and you can see a little bit the richness of each of that data. So you have the crashes that are in the state database. You have the crashes that were reported on Waze. We call them accidents in our system because that nomenclature was set up about 10 years ago. And you can see 911 reports of crashes. And you can see how they're overlaid there. And it gives you because Waze crash data, it's simply what a user observes. It's a date, a time, and a location stamp, and whether that user has characterized it as a minor crash or a major crash. So you don't get a lot of additional data. But for planning exercises, particularly where you're trying to target safety investments, and particularly after you've moved through the places where it might be most obvious to make those investments, it can really help point you in the right direction among a set of intersections or among a set of corridors for where you might be seeing a lot of non-reportable crashes in addition to the reportable ones. And that's just one use of it. We've seen other uses related to potholes and pothole data, other uses related, some really interesting use cases around flooding data. So you get all the Waze user reports of where roads have flooded. All of those reports are in there, and you can see back where they've been reported over time. So we're going to wrap things up there, and it looks like we have 25 minutes for questions. So Megan and Holly. Oh, wait, I forgot. But wait, there's more. We do have these additional programs to let you know about. First, for any of you who work in the transit space who aren't already aware of it, or to share with your colleagues, we have Google Transit. This is how you can share with us all of the information you have about stop locations, about schedules, about real-time information, and fares, and make sure that that is surfaced for Google Maps users, and make sure that that is surfaced accurately on the transit layer on Google Maps. I'm sure many folks on this call are familiar with Google Earth Pro, desktop version of Google Earth that lets you import and export GIS data, and has just incredible visualizations on it from our satellite imagery. And last but certainly not least, on the next slide is Environmental Insights Explorer. For those of you who are not familiar with this, a very cool tool that we have that shares transportation emissions by year, by mode, inbound, outbound, and within jurisdiction. In many jurisdictions, also has rooftop solar potential data and building emissions data, and in some areas also has tree canopy data. That's all available at no cost at Environmental Insights Explorer. If you just Google Environmental Insights Explorer, it'll take you there, or there's a link as well. And that data goes back 4 or 5 years. So really neat resource to check out there in terms of solar, in terms of carbon emissions, and incredible documentation for how all of those calculations are made. And so now we have just 2 minutes less for questions and answers.
So it looks like we're pretty lively on the chat. Thank you, Megan. She's always amazing with the chat answers. So feel free to enter in the chat, but why don't we go ahead and take any live questions if people, we're used to Google Meet, I hate to say, but is there a raise your hand button on these, Emily?
Yeah, there's a raise hand function that you can use. I see Paul Dudley has figured it out already, but for those who don't see it, it should be at the bottom of your screen. Looks like a little hand icon.
Paul, did you have the NSGIC question? I think I just saw it today.
Yep, yeah, I put it in the chat. Many thanks. Really, it just is, I'm curious because I know other mapping companies, your competitors do ingest open data from state portals, and I'm curious to what level Google does it. and because I know that and it kind of plays off the other question that was in the NSGIC community on, I guess, some of the inability to agree or adhere to the terms of the licensing, and just again seeing how we could potentially participate, or to what level do you all source and ingest that open data?
Do you want to take it, Andrew?
Yeah, sure. So, and Megan should also feel free to chime in. So obviously it has to do with how that open data is licensed. So if that open data is under a Creative Commons license, we can go and ingest that ourselves. And if it, or under another kind of permissive license, we'll go out and ingest that open data. I don't know if Megan has anything she'd want to add on that.
Yeah, I would just say, like, if you do have an open data portal and you're uploading through like GMCP or something like that, including that in the description is really helpful for us. We have some new tooling capabilities that we're working on that I'm not allowed to tell a lot about. But there are some tooling capabilities that we have in the works. So giving us that information, if we haven't already found it, would be really helpful for us. But as Andrew said, if it is open and it meets our licensing terms, then yes, we can totally go out and grab that data.
The other NSGIC question had to do also with, if there's a struggle to, in your organization or your agency, to sign the terms of service, were there other options to give? And we really do ask people to go through the channel of the terms of service through the Google Maps content partners, specifically for that. We don't, but if we can talk individually about what that looks like. We have had, it's very interesting. We've had, and I worked in the federal government as well, so I know that there's different levels of agencies and different people uploading from the same agency, but don't know that each one is sending in the data, and some person will kind of just bypass the terms of service and go ahead, and some others will kind of go by the book and talk to someone. So I'm happy to kind of look at different use cases if people want to get in touch and see what that looks like. And I can answer that within the NSGIC portal as well. I'm happy to go back in there and talk more about that individually.
I can just say from the Waze side, our experience has been that often when we look at our terms of service, they were pretty thoughtfully written with the public sector in mind. So they try to make them as easily agreeable to as possible. And also, I think, what we've found with lots of our partners is that they feel like the trade-off between being able to reach all of so many constituents with the risks that may be associated with our terms of service, that was a trade-off that their executives were willing to make.
Let's take Frank. Paul, do you have another question? Do you have a follow-up, or you still have your hand raised? No.
Lowering it down.
Frank Winters, how are you?
Hey, great. We've come a long way. We've been at this a while with you, and this really is a tag on to the licensing question. Maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, we had a webinar, and it was all sorts of angst about, we can't sign your agreement. But then we had follow-up webinars, and we kind of all collectively settled on Creative Commons Zero as one of the options. And that really has changed the tide. So it's been great. And just as a note on this whole environment, this whole partnership, the people that we serve don't come to our websites in mass and download 9 million address points or a whole bunch of roads. They use their phones, right? So we're serving our people by these kind of collaborations. So it's fantastic. There are some constraints that I've experienced, and that is constraints against us putting staff time into something that benefits a particular company that we don't have a contract with, which is why things like Work Zone Data Exchange and all of the extensions to that, we can publish stuff, we can tag it with Creative Commons Zeros, and we can make you aware of it. And that's why my question in the chat was about the Florida idea, the Florida data feed, but really in general, work zone data exchange is going to continue to expand. How big of a deal is that to you, that we get things like bridge clearance and all sorts of other matters of safety on the highway through that kind of a thing that we can just go ahead and publish? When I say we, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm retired.
No, it's a great question, and work zone data exchange, and particularly the adoption of it by so many states, and a big, sort of shout out to FHWA here and the funding that they provided for states to adopt it is really important to us. We see the same thing on the transit side with the General Transit Feed Standard, GTFS, really being a game changer for us, because on our side we think about how is it that we are able to build tooling to ingest, and we can't do it for every single possible standard or in every single format. So the more widely adopted standards there are, the better that is for us. Specifically on things like bridge heights and that kind of information, that's information that we are taking in, but right now we're not surfacing on the consumer side because we only serve cars, and truck navigation is a really complicated space that has to involve not only heights but also lengths and weights and widths and turning radii. So lots of information that goes in there. But the more data that goes into these standards, the more future opportunities there are as well.
Yeah, that's great. And a whole bunch of those folks who are driving into bridges don't realize that you only serve cars. They're just using the inappropriately, right? And they're already in violation, but they're looking at their screen instead of out the windshield. So, it's a matter of safety that I think we collectively have the right approach to come together and solve. It's great. And to your point about having the standardized licensing also reduces all of our overhead in reviewing different licensing over and over again. So again, hats off to all of you and the work you're doing in partnership with us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frank. It's good to see you, even though it's video. Are there other hands raised? Megan, how's the chat going? Do you have anything in there to shout out to, or?
There's been a couple questions about like our processing time through Google Maps content partners. And so if you guys are interested, our aim is to process 80% of data sets within 30 days. We do have some constraints on that, right? Like there might be some features, if you send us a giant address data set, there might be some features that drop out of that and we'll still mark the upload as in use. And so if you're still seeing some issues with those data sets, like feel free to send a message within the 2-way communications and we can follow up and see why those specific pieces of the data dropped out. But yes, we do aim to try to process all the data sets within 30 days, but 80% is our goal. We're well above that. We're at about 93-ish%. But there is some data sets that will have data issues. We might have to follow up with you guys if we have questions about the data. So there is some that do take much, much longer than 30 days. And size and complexity of the data do come into play for these.
And I would just say it's worth calling out there that if you've had difficult experiences with Google Maps content partners in the past, it's worth giving it a try again. Megan's being very modest. Like under her leadership is massively improved the processing times. And I know that there are partners who we talked to who said, oh, we tried it a few years ago and nothing ever happened with the data. It's a different experience today. And also particularly for those of you who are working in the transportation space, as we're, making our way through construction season here, as you're opening new roads or ramps or changing configurations, you can send all of that data through Google Maps content partners. Let us know ahead of time so we can get it accurately modeled on Google Maps, and then let us know when to turn it on for you. So interchange changes, putting in diverging diamonds, changing street regulations, all of that data can come through Google Maps content partners. It's very easy to submit. You can submit it as a PDF. You can submit other kinds of files, and we're seeing that those kinds of small individual changes really getting processed quite quickly.
I have a quick question. I actually put it in the chat. My question is, when when you open Google Earth, especially in certain parts of the country and where we live, which is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the base map seems to be really old. So I was wondering, how often do you upload those satellite images for people that want to use that as a reference?
Holly, do you know that? I don't know that off the top of my head.
So I don't know, is Megan still here? So that is actually, it completely depends on the region that we're in. So the cadence of uploading satellite imagery is, could lag a significant amount of time in some regions, whereas there's other regions that we update it very regularly.
So how does that depend on the state providing the satellite image, or how do you get these images? I mean, who would provide that?
Actually, so globally, we have different, we have different ways of obtaining satellite imagery or aerial imagery, depending on what we're using. And it absolutely varies globally again, right? So, depending on access to the imagery and the different partnerships that we have. I won't go into detail about the specific partnerships, but if there's, but it's certainly regional how often we update it and where we get the data from, and even the accuracy. I don't know if Megan has more, and I don't see more information on that as well, but I'm sure that doesn't help that much, but we do take requests for updated satellite imagery. And if you do have satellite imagery or aerial imagery of your region, we do vet that to see if it's better than what we have.
Thank you.
I would also add too, you can upload, if you have like overhead imagery, you can upload that to Google Maps content partners. And we hand that off directly to our imagery team for processing. And so if you have that info, we're happy to help get those updated, or at least get the ball rolling to say that like this area might need a refresh. Holly, there's a question about parks in the chat. It looks like someone wants to submit Tennessee state parks. So just to, as I touched on before, we do accept parks data. I work very hard to make sure that we get those parks imported. I can't guarantee the 30-day turnaround time like I can for roads, geocodes, POIs, and politicals. But we do still work really hard to get those in. So they might have a little bit longer of a wait time in the queue, but we will still work through those. So yeah, if you have parks data, send it through and we'll get it added into the queue.
We actually, and tell me if I'm wrong, Megan, because I was in a meeting this morning where they were talking about, so Google My Business is, Google Business Profile is a way where if you're a business owner, you can claim your own POI and you could add business hours, or you can update the information about your business. That's, we're not on the business side, we're on the data side. So that's a separate program. So we do get a lot of questions about that. But this morning I was in a meeting where I was hearing that different government agencies can claim, if they upload the parks, they can claim their parks and make changes on those parks as well. So Megan, you have more information on that? Is that, am I correct there?
There's a new bulk like Google Business Profile approval process. So if you do want to claim entities, like you are the state representative for the parks agency and you want to claim multiple parks, then you can go through this new process. And you just list out which locations you're wanting to claim. And then there's a whole process that you have to walk through in order to gather those. But I think that also touches on, there's another question about POI updates in the chat that I don't think I responded to quite yet. If there's individual POIs that have issues on them and you want to report that there's something wrong with this POI, there's the report map issue within the actual maps interface where you guys can send that feedback. And what that will do is it will actually send a notification to whoever owns that location through Google Business Profile, or Google My Business is what it used to be called. And so that'll let them know that you're saying there's conflicting information than what's on their posting. If you have a bunch of POIs that you're saying, hey, all of these are incorrect, or we want to add these, or we want to change these in some meaningful way, then that would be a use case to actually send through the Google Maps Content Partners portal. And so you can send in the list of those locations and the attributes you're looking to update using our POI template, and we can help make some of those adjustments. I do have to caveat though, if it is claimed by Google Business Profile users, their edits take priority. So we can let them know that there's things wrong, but we sometimes can't make those edits directly too. It looks like there's a question from Chris.
Is there anything special we need to do about getting roads that aren't roads removed from the maps? I work for a small district, and I've noticed that there are some Google Street views from some locations that are not really streets. And I can imagine, adding new things is pretty simple, but making something that isn't there to be removed might be a bit more difficult.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's a Street View driver that braved a not road to drive down to collect that. But if you do have a list of like those roads, or you have a geospatial file like of the polylines, you can definitely share those within the Google Maps Content Partners portal. And just make sure that in the title of the upload, you say for deletion or for removal, and like add some context into the description. And we can take a look at those and see if they are actual roads that should not be included and don't meet policy for existence. But yeah, again, very strange that a Street View driver would have driven down a non-usable road.
We have a number of wildcats and connecting driveways. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we just have a few minutes left, so I will send out. I'll send out a quick email with some information on the website and some more information about like our FAQ section, et cetera, and how to get in touch with us. I was going to say the email. So the website and email, how to get in touch with us. And yeah, and if you have other questions, I put a question in the chat too. Let me see, I was thinking, so one of the things, did people answer my question? I don't know, but I put a question in the chat because, we'll hear from one city that they've heard of Google Maps Content Partners and they use it. And then we hear from another city that yesterday that, hey, we've never heard of you. How do we find you? And so I am interested to hear how you get your geospatial information, right? So if there's some city that hasn't heard of us, or they're like, Google's a black box, I have no idea how to send in data, we want them to know about this program. So, if you have a minute to type in the chat, where you think we could spread the word, that would be great. NSGIC is fabulous. Thank you so much for having us. And, we work hard to try to spread the word, but any ideas on how we could do this further, please let us know. Yeah, and if there's any final questions in the last few minutes.
I think Karen has a hand up.
Oh, but you can't hear me, can you?
Oh, yes, we can.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Hooray.
My laptop is not
Karen's going to ask about wildlife. No, go ahead.
No, about
Wildlife crossing.
your understanding of federal agencies adopting Creative Commons 0. I mean, I didn't know that you have federal government experience. And so, like I raised it to my BLM community and everyone was like, we don't know what you're talking about. So I'm just curious, and we can take that conversation offline.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk to you about those different, pieces of our puzzle.
Okay, that'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah, it'd be good. We can have a coffee chat.
Yeah.
And then I guess just to I have a final question. For all of the questions in the chat, I know a lot of them were able to be answered. But I will pass that chat file along. And I guess how can people expect to get their questions answered? Like I did see a couple, you know, is there a way to, like a good follow-up method?
Yeah, this is good. So I will send an email to the list, if that's okay. Send an email, like a thank you email to the list, and then we can take these. What is the best way? Is it, should I send it and then people can respond with questions? Would that be good? With these same questions, or I could take them out individually and see if we can tease them out.
Yeah,
Are there ones in here that I want to? You're going to send me a list of the chat, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll work hard to get to contact the people if we have their information from the list that you sent us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you've registered for this webinar, you'll receive a follow-up email from Google. So sweet.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, we'll do that.
And just real quick to answer Lucy's question out loud. Yes, this webinar is recorded, and if you have registered for it and received a confirmation email and are therefore here, you'll receive that recording and a follow-up email from NSGIC probably in the next day or so.
Thanks so much for having us, Emily. I appreciate it. And thank you, NSGIC, for letting us join.
Yeah.
And thank everybody for coming.
Yes, thank you so much for the webinar, and thank you everybody for attending.
Thank you.